एटीट्यूड बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. अगर आपके पास एटीट्यूड है सीखने का तो लोग आपको सिखाएंगे और आपको अपने क्लोज रखेंगे.
Everyone's expecting you to show that work ethic and learn so much more. So ask questions, raise your hand. This will be better for me. Can we make this happen? Like, you know, क्या होगा ज़्यादा मना करेंगे.
Don't think कि लोग आपको मैनेज कर रहे हैं, आप भी उनको मैनेज कर सकते हो with your right kind of communication. Today we have on the podcast Palnika Hemnani, and Palnika has been an investment banker for a very long time. And she worked in India, she worked in UK, looked at all the culture in Europe and how the business is done in Europe. And now Palnika is back. She wanted to get back to some of the things that she wanted to do. She's a startup founder. She runs a wealth tech startup within the larger, broader umbrella of fintech. And the name of the startup is Unmaze. They're going to make life easy when it comes to investing for personal finance. So they're really solving a lot of things for personal finance, and that's what Palnika is about. And by the way, I have to say this because I've worked with Palnika, and she was a brilliant banker. She was supremely smart, and that's why she did very good things for herself. Here is Palnika on our podcast.
Thank you so much. I mean, I'm quite glad to be here. It's a different experience, and I wanted to put myself out of the comfort box.
Super.
And talk
super.
about this. Yeah, this is quite
great. And the other thing is that, Palnika and I have worked together. हम लोगों ने साथ में काम किया है, and she was brilliant always, and that's why she did a lot of interesting stuff in the world of banking.
You're very kind. Thank you so much.
This is a conversation about TAO, transitioning from academics to organization. And कैसा होता है कि हमने पहले भी इसके कुछ episodes किए हुए हैं, and you would have probably seen कि when you're graduating, आपने undergrad कर लिया, or you went for an MBA or whatever. When you're moving from academics, which is a controlled environment, and you're going to work somewhere in a big corporate, small corporate, whatever, the realities are different. The contexts are different. Challenges भी बहुत अलग होते हैं, और उन challenges को anticipate करना is what we want to do, so that you're very well prepared, so that आपकी landing smooth हो and you have a steep growth curve. तो Palnika, you tell me कि when you joined Nomura, right? You try and go back and share with us कि आपको जो when you come into a corporate world, right? What are the things? क्या करना चाहिए लोगों को ताकि उनकी landing smooth हो? And all of us know that कि landing इतनी smooth नहीं होती है. बहुत सारे प्रोग्राम चलाए जाते हैं, HR रन करते हैं, बहुत सारे सेशंस किए जाते हैं, लेकिन लैंडिंग फिर भी स्मूथ नहीं होती बिकॉज द रियलिटीज आर डिफरेंट. जब वो इंटरपर्सनल कम्युनिकेशन हो रहा होता है, एक नया एनवायरनमेंट होता है. टॉक अबाउट दैट प्लीज. क्या कर सकते हैं लोग जो लैंडिंग स्मूथ हो?
I think there are multiple aspects to it. I mean, there's definitely a lot of naivety when you're coming into a corporate world, right? You think, oh, you're excited about it. You're going to be earning money. You're going to be going into a fancy new structure, you're happy about getting placed wherever you're coming from, right? So you come with a lot of naivety in that, and that's good. I think the excitement and the hunger is amazing, but it also hits you with a lot of things that you have not known in your life.
What are those things?
And then it could be a lot of them. Like the first thing, I think what I learned when I started there was there has to be a lot of interpersonal management, right? Like when you have to manage like the new peers that you, at least in my experience, we had a huge batch, as it is in Nomura. We had a huge batch, so you're like interacting with so many new people. That still felt like college, so it was still okay. So the peer portion was still okay, but you're coming at a place, you're coming at a place where everyone is at a little higher level, like of professionalism, of work ethic. So you have to like build to that, and you have no clue, okay, how much is expected of you. So there's a lot of expectation management that happens. And I mean, of course, in the first year, there's technical learning, and it's a very steep curve. I do think in the first year, you're not doing the most complicated stuff, but the learning curve is still the most steep because you're learning all the technical parts of it. As you said, there are trainings going on from technical perspective, for HR perspective, things like that. But then you're also learning, okay, how to manage your seniors. What do your seniors expect of you? How much do you have to work, or how much do you not have to work? What is their what is their work culture per se? So you're learning and that happens in any new organization you go to, right? But you know that after first organization that's what you have to expect. You have to get used to the work culture. What time do you have to come? What time do you have to go? What is expected? How much flexibility? How much leeway? So much that, like, you know, you have to understand out of it. Then comes, of course, the work ethic part, right? Like how, and again, it also is part of expectation. Where do you draw that line of flexibility? Like if I'm telling that person, like I'm in a startup right now and we have a hybrid model. So the work culture is very different from a structured corporate, right? Like we have a model, okay, if you're unwell, it's fine, like take half a day off, but you, as long as the deadlines are being met, you can work on a weekend or you can, like, you know, get it done faster, things like, we have a lot more flexibility there. But in a corporate structure, especially when I was working with a London team, the time is quite fixed, the culture is quite more formal. So any new organization would have that, and you kind of have no idea about it, right? What do we expect out of there?
So, you know, through this conversation, let's help people in, you know, having a list of things they should expect and mentally orient towards it so that unki landing smooth ho. Okay, so, you know, through what you were saying, there were a few things that, you know, kind of jumped out. One, managing seniors.
Yes.
You tell me, लोगों को ना अभी ये कहेंगे managing seniors, seniors हमें manage करते हैं, right? Juniors को manage करते हैं. That's the concept.
Yeah.
ये, you know, let's talk about कि seniors को कैसे manage कर सकते हैं. How did you do that? और let's say कि आपने कैसे किया वो छोड़ो, but you know, just let's talk about कि seniors को manage करना is possible.
I mean, you are human at the end of the day. Your senior and juniors, whoever you work with, or your peers, they're all human.
Correct.
And there always be certain kind of expectation that they come with. And I think it's more about communication, right? Like having that transparent communication. And I know it could vary for people to people. There could be toxic work cultures, unfortunately, where you would try everything and nothing would work. I was lucky enough to have seniors who were amazing, but at the same time, they enabled me. No, tell us if you're busy and you cannot take that job. Tell us if you want to take a leave and you know there's a project at them. Tell us, we'll work together and get it done. So communication and like setting their expectations also correct from start, right? I mean, your brain works in a way, what you do in the first few, and I know first impression is last impression is, it's a little subjective. It's not a straight line or like a patthar ki lakeer. But it does matter because you set those expectations, right? Agar from day one I'm like, अरे नहीं आप मेरे को बोलो मैं 4 बजे तक रात के 4 बजे तक भी काम करूँगी. That's what they'll expect from you throughout, right? Unless you change that expectation and put your foot down. Or if you, from first day, you are like, okay, no, I'll get all my work done. This is the deadline. It doesn't matter what time I work, where I work, how I work, but I'll get everything. That's the expectation, right?
Putting your foot down, right? While managing expectation. Now, जब ये लोग शब्द सुनेंगे ना तो वो putting your foot down, let's open that up. Let's tell them how do you do that?
Yeah,
how do you put your foot down?
I don't mean putting your foot down is like dharna or something like that. I think answer to every question is communication, right? You have to tell your boss.
How do you do that? So let's say, I'm giving you a situation, Palnika. Let's say, you know, your senior said, नहीं ये करना है, and you know, it's important. मैंने तुम्हें दे दिया है काम करना है. Now, how do you softly put your foot down?
So, I'll give you an example from my own journey in the first year. I was working with a team, and I was within the team. There were 2 different regions to which I was allotted. So I was supposed to work 50-50% for them. And in the first year, you have that habit, okay, not saying no, or like, you know, respect your seniors. Like that comes very innately in Eastern cultures and taught. And that's good. Like I think, yeah, and that's okay. Like you should respect human beings around you, whether it's be senior or junior or your peers. I completely agree. But it should not be to a point of extent where you are stretching yourself too much, right? So I ended up working too much for both of them, and it started hampering my work quality itself in a bit. And I mean, as I said, I think I was very lucky to have amazing associates and seniors. And one of my seniors, she had a conversation with me and she's like, Palnika, I know you're amazing at work. I've seen that firsthand, but I don't know, something is up for the last month, and I'm seeing like, you know, you're missing out some things, the ATD is not as much. And I was like, I'm working for this and I'm working for this. And she's like, why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you communicate it to me? I mean, if you have two things at your end, just ask us which is more prioritizing, which is more urgent, which is more important, what are the deadlines. We give you something, and if you're not giving you a deadline, right, then ask us the deadline. What if you're doing it by tonight, whereas it was supposed to, whereas we were okay if you give it to us by tomorrow or day after tomorrow. Right. So ask us those questions. I'm very grateful to my 2 associates I got in the first few years. Something I learned from them. They would go and ask their seniors.
Correct.
कि मुझे बताओ कब है क्लाइंट से मीटिंग, किस बारे में है, क्या है. तुमको लगता है यू आर अ वेरी स्मॉल पार्ट इन द चेन बिकॉज यू हैव जस्ट जॉइंड, बट गो आस्क देम, गेट टू नो देम, एंड बिकॉज देन यू विल ऑल्सो अंडरस्टैंड द स्टेक्स, द इम्पैक्ट दैट योर वर्क एंड योर जॉब इज मेकिंग, एंड यू विल बी एबल टू हैंडल इट बेटर. एंड वो शुरू के 1 साल में थोड़ा, मतलब मेरे को तो एटलीस्ट था, टू एवरीवन टू इट्स ओन, बट इन द फर्स्ट ईयर आई वाज लाइक कि नहीं, मुझे काम दिया है, मुझे ये काम करना है, मुझे ये काम करके आज देना है क्योंकि आज दिया. एंड आई रियलाइज कि that's not helping. Again, it's not helping me, it's not helping the associate, it's not helping the senior, it's not helping the client, it's not helping the organization at the end of the day, right? So what's the point? Matlab, so I and she taught me that, like both my associates actually, they taught me that कि ask the boss, ask the senior कि कहाँ इन्वॉल्वमेंट है, क्या है. भले इवन इफ ही गिव्स यू लाइक अ वन लाइनर कि अच्छा परसों क्लाइंट के साथ मीटिंग है, इस बारे में मीटिंग है, हम सोच रहे हैं हम ये चीज़ें प्रेजेंट करें और उसका ये पार्ट हम चाहते हैं तुम कवर करो, एंड देन दे लुक एट इट एंड fit it into the deck or fit it into the work or fit it into the email, newsletter, whatever. You also understand कि अच्छा, you understand the whole perspective. It helps you mold that work better as to what it's impacting.
And prioritize things and that you have at your end.
And prioritize things accordingly.
Very nice. So Palnika, you know, एक और चीज़ हम बात कर रहे थे पहले, उस पर बात करते हैं, which is attitude. और कई बार कैसा होता है, मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि कॉलेज में जब होते हैं तो वी ऑब्वियसली डोंट हैव द राइट पर्सपेक्टिव कि काम कैसा होगा, और हम लोग हमेशा जाते हैं काम में विद अ वेरी ग्लोरीफाइड इमेज की बहुत मज़ा आने वाला है मुझे काम में, बहुत एक्साइटिंग होगा और मैं सब कुछ तोड़ के, मतलब I'll ace everything, right? तो you know, how do you deal with it? Because the reality is different. कई बार हो सकता है आप इनिशियली काम पसंद ना करें, आपको कई बार बेसिक काम करना पड़ेगा, लेकिन बैंकिंग जैसे बहुत सारा डेटा रिलेटेड काम करना पड़ता है. मुझे आके लोग बताते थे दिस इज़ वेरी बोरिंग, आई यूज्ड टू टेल देम डूड दिस इज हाउ यू लर्न द रोप्स. तो टेल अबाउट दैट, हाउ डू यू, इससे कैसे डील करने का कि यार काम बोरिंग है.
I mean, of course, like on the larger picture, you should think about it ki if calm is being boring 80% or 90% of the time for you, then that's something you should think for yourself ki do you want to place yourself somewhere else or do you not want to continue here. And of course that will vary from people to people and their own backgrounds and situations and financial situations. But if you can afford to do that, if you can change, if you're 90% bored with the work, maybe look for a change, maybe see what is out there. But I also think if there is a good balance, ki acha, there is some boring work, but there are places where you're learning, where you're thriving, where you're learning something new or the other, it's fine. Like, it's boring work is, I don't know what is boring, to be honest. There is you could have data stuff, you could be doing something for like 5 days and you're still doing that. But it's part of the job, right? I don't know. I mean, I don't want to sound like it's part of the job, do it. But not everything would be interesting all the time. That is a life part.
हर काम में चाहे कितना भी एक्साइटिंग काम जो बाहर दिखाई देता हो, जैसे फिल्में बनती हैं, बड़ी एक्साइटिंग लगती है ना.
हाँ, पर काम तो पीछे,
उसके पीछे काम हमने देखा है, मैंने देखा है, because you know people in Shraddha's family and Shraddha herself, because of her I've seen it. पीछे ग्रंज वर्क होता है बहुत. तो जो सामने चीज ग्लोरियस दिखाई देती है ना, उसके पीछे ग्रंज वर्क कौन करेगा? So, and when you are just entering, you learn the ropes like that.
I think that goes to that. I mean, another part you learn in that first year is also a lot of personal life management, right?
ये बहुत important है, personal life management. कि इतने अब जब काम करने गए, बैंकिंग में है, Palnika was in banker, बैंकिंग में बहुत intensity होती है, I can tell you that. And you know, because I've been through that intensity myself, even at the very highest level, right? My last job was in India had at a global tech M&A boutique, and tremendous intensity. Okay, fulfilling but great intensity. So let's talk about that. ये जो personal life management होती है, इसमें कैसे करना है?
balance, I don't know. I mean, my
How do you
2024
balance?
motto is
Balance,
balance, and
balance.
I'm still trying to figure it out. I don't think there is I think you need a lot of self-awareness for that.
Okay.
You
अगर बैलेंस करना है इंटेंसिटी है, इंटेंसिटी को एक्सेप्ट भी कर रहे हो क्योंकि ग्रो करना चाहते हो, राइट? तो उसमें थोड़ा सा Palnika is saying, and it's a very important point, कि if you are aware of yourself, then you can balance your life better.
Yeah. You need to know what fulfills you, what contents you, right? Like तुम्हें काम करके it's fulfilling you, right? But तुम्हें books पढ़ के ज़्यादा better लगता है. और तुम्हें, for me, it was like I've always been parts of NGOs and volunteered and taught kids, and that was very crucial for me. I've done that since college. I wasn't able to do that as an investment banker. It took me years to realize that part of me or that portion of me was never getting fulfilled because I was not able to balance that. I tried something here and there and here, but it comes from a lot of self-awareness ki why you're not feeling the greatest in the job also. Your job will be a crucial part, and the first few years or whatever stage you are in, you would want to put a lot more, you would want to learn a lot more, you would want to educate yourself outside of the job also. But you also have to realize what fulfills you otherwise. Is it exercising which fulfills you, like in your personal life? Is it being with your friends? Is it reading a book? Because it's not like you will work 24/7 there. Even though I was in a high intensity job, I would go home, I would eat, I would spend some time with my friends. I would try to achieve those in as much bubbles and circles I could do that. But you need to realize कि तुम्हारे लिए कितना important है, so you kind of do it at least थोड़ा सब जगह, because otherwise you can't sustain yourself in the long term.
Palnika, I've seen even in industries like banking, investment banking, that is, and consulting, etc. Intensity होती है, लेकिन intensity comes in bouts. Yeah. And so how should people look at it? Intensity आ रही है, 2 हफ्ते की intensity है, intense period है, फिर वो होते हैं periods, थोड़े relax periods होते हैं, right? 6 महीने लगातार intensity है, तो मैं तो ये बोलता हूँ कि मतलब just see, you will burn out. If you want to change it, change your job. लेकिन ये जो 2 वीक की इंटेंसिटी होती है, what do you think? मुझे लगता है पर्सनली कि इंटेंस पीरियड्स में आपकी लर्निंग भी ज़्यादा होती है.
That is true, but as you said, if it's in bouts, it's fine. पर तो जब खाली period है, then you should be able to do other things.
Rejuvenate.
Yeah, talk to your, and I mean, a lot of us are also moving out of where we are living originally, right? So you also have to manage a household. You have new flatmates, you have helps at home, you have to pay the utility bills. Like there is so much new happening in that first year, which you have not. I mean, hostel में रह रहे हो, of course you're living with new people.
Controlled environment होता है,
but structured है ना, electricity bill नहीं pay करना, सफाई वाले को नहीं कुछ समझाना. Like it's quite structured in that sense. हाँ, it's controlled, right? But when you're moving away, तुम खुद के PG में हो या खुद के flat में हो, you have to do so much that that naivety doesn't tell you कि अच्छा ये सब भी करना होगा, right? You're quite like कि अच्छा हाँ हो जाएगा, अरे ठीक है सब करते ही तो है, हो जाएगा. But you realize ये अच्छा नहीं, वो छोटा वो 0.1% करके वो add होता जाता है कि अच्छा ये भी करना है, आज वो भी करना है, अरे ये भी करना है, end of month ये भी भरना है, वो भी भरना है, वो electricity bill भरना है. तो and I think that's what I'm talking about, self-awareness there. कि you need to know कि इतना तो मेरे को इसके लिए निकालना ही पड़ेगा. You can't do much about it, right? And it comes back to you also, right? If you are a happier person, if you're a content person, your productivity at the work would be much higher. तुम 12 घंटे में रो के काम करोगे. And if you're happier, little more happier, maybe you will be able to achieve that in 10 hours. Maybe you'll be able to achieve that in 7 hours. You don't know. But you have to fulfill. And I know it's easier said than done. First few years, when you have that fire, when you have that hunger to learn or be like अच्छा नहीं, or do not have the skills of expectation management, तुम हाँ बोलते जा रहे हो और काम लेते जा रहे हो, it gets difficult, right? And then of course you will be like अरे मेरे को तो बॉस टाइम ही नहीं देता है काम करने का, मेरे को तो घर जाने का कुछ हुई. I have seen people in my group who are like जो बॉस से ऐसी बात करते हैं, अच्छा लाइव डील चल रही है, I have to go home, मुझे उसके लिए 20 मिनट लगेंगे, मुझे उसके बाद ब्रश करना होगा, फ्रेशन अप होना होगा, उसके लिए मुझे 25 मिनट लगेंगे, उसके बाद आई वुड वांट टू स्लीप फॉर एटलीस्ट 2 to 3 hours, देन आई वुड वेक अप, आई विल टेक अ बाथ, आई विल हैव माई ब्रेकफास्ट. दे पूरा प्लान आउट द 8-9 hours फॉर विच शी इज I do not condone that. I don't think that's healthy throughout. That can get
but intense
very
period mein you can
intense.
use that as a technique.
But intense period as we were talking about, like you need to communicate कि इतना टाइम तो मुझे चाहिए ही, मतलब सांस लेने को या सोने को या कुछ. And I don't think the boss would be like कि नहीं तुम जाके सो मत. Like ठीक एक दिन, there have been times where I have done an overnight and have not slept and सुबह ब्रश करके मैं वापस आ रही हूँ बस क्योंकि I have to work. But it cannot continue, right? You have to tell the boss कि अच्छा ठीक है मैं एक रात से करा था कल, I need at least this. And that's expectation management and communication together. अगर तुम शुरू से उनको आदत डाल दोगे कि तुम जो बोलोगे मैं करूँगा या करूँगी, वो वही एक्सपेक्ट करेंगे तुमसे कि इसको बोल दिया ये कर लेगा. उनको ही नहीं पता कि तुम किस चीज़ से स्ट्रगल कर रहे हो, तो वो क्या करेंगे? उनको लगता होगा तुम सब मैनेज कर रहे हो अच्छे से.
स्ट्रगल्स बताइए, अपनी स्ट्रगल्स बताइए, अपने चैलेंजेस बताइए. एट द सेम टाइम यू नो एज आई सेड राइट, कैपेसिटी होती है. यू नो अगर आपने अच्छे से एक्सप्लेन किया, बार बार उसका पैटर्न मत बनाइए, लेकिन एक्सप्लेन कर रहे हैं तो बॉसेस के पास एक कैपेसिटी होती है कि मैनेज कर लें. उनके पास ज़्यादा एक्सपीरियंस है, उनके पास ज़्यादा लोग हैं तो मैनेज कर सकते हैं. और इसीलिए पलनिका बार बार यही कह रहे हैं कि कम्युनिकेट करिए. कम्युनिकेशन इज़ रियली द की फॉर यू टू गेट अ स्मूथ लैंडिंग.
But I do think आज की generation has more confidence than us. Millennials though are really messed up. I really think. I think Gen Zs are definitely doing a little better in communication. They just need to find that, I don't know, what's the best rapport with your seniors.
Right.
Yeah. I think you would know much better what happens in the background, right? Like I was a senior to somebody, to like one or two people, and I had a very difficult time managing that because you have to understand each and every person. You have to understand how they're doing. You have to hone them. I think you would have a much better perspective on that, right? What is happening? How are you evaluating these people who are like, you know, a team of 20, 25 every year? Like, do you have a take?
Absolutely, Palnika. So what happens is, you know, thanks for asking this question, क्योंकि कई बार ग्रेजुएट्स को लगेगा कि यार वी आर बीइंग इवैल्यूएटेड और हमारे पर सारा प्रेशर है, लेकिन द रियलिटी इज़ कि प्रेशर ना, परफॉर्म करने का प्रेशर सब पे होता है. आई वुड इमेजिन अगर अच्छी जगह जा रहे हैं आप तो आप जनरली बेसिक कॉन्फिडेंस होगा ही होगा, बट ट्राई एंड प्रोजेक्ट यू आर अ कॉन्फिडेंट पर्सन. ट्राई एंड टॉक टू पीपल ऑन द फ्लोर. ट्राई एंड बी विजिबल. ये सब चीज़ें इंपॉर्टेंट होती हैं, बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. आपकी विजिबिलिटी मैटर करती है बहुत ज़्यादा. Try and say that, you know, raise hand. Take initiatives. It's so important. Raise your hand.
I would completely agree.
मतलब मैंने मतलब at a very advanced stages of my corporate career मैं I used to raise hand. मतलब you won't, एक anecdote बताता हूँ. So our CEO was Rangan. I used to report directly into him. तो फिनटेक का वो चल रहा था कि हम फिनटेक का एक बड़ा प्रोग्राम करते हैं, ग्लोबल प्रोग्राम था. And you know, there was already an ED. I got to know. I sniffed it. I got to know. मैं सीधे रंगन के पास गया. ये हो रहा है. I would love to be a part of it. That's all I said. Said, अच्छा, तू करेगा? Okay, great. फोन कराया उसी टाइम. यार दीपक ये करना चाहता है. Just that, and I was the two most important people who were running this globally. I was one of those. So ऐसा भी नहीं था कि वहाँ कोई वेट कर रहा है. इट वॉज जस्ट चॉइस आई मेड. सो वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. अगर शुरुआत में ही जो ये लोग होते हैं वो ये ग्रेजुएट्स अगर वो ये सीखें कि मैं आई रेज हैंड. कई बार ऐसा होगा कि यू आर टेकिंग ए बिट एक्स्ट्रा, बट दैट्स ओके. थोड़े टाइम रहेगा, बट देन यू विल outshine most of the people.
And I completely agree with it. I don't know if you remember, but I also did the same thing, right? I asked for a team change, even though it was a very difficult perspective for me because my team was amazing. I remember I was working in the debt capital markets team, an amazing team. As I keep saying, like my associates in them, Amelia and Martin, I'm so grateful to them. Like they taught me a lot in that first few years. But I knew I saw myself more in an industry team for a longer perspective, and I asked for that, and I do not regret it at all. I wish I would have asked for that sooner because, and of course, I mean, it's a two-way road. You also made that effort to make that happen, to find me a team where I would fit. And even within the team, both the teams, asking questions had never come at a negative impact to me. Never came at a negative impact. If I didn't know, on your first day of job, on your first year, nobody is expecting you to know everything. Nobody is expecting कि अरे तुमको आज ही सब कुछ आ जाएगा, तुम आज ही पूरा pitch deck बना लोगे, तुम आज ही client को handle कर लोगे. Everyone's expecting you to learn. Everyone's expecting you to show that work ethic and learn so much. So ask questions, raise your hand, ask those things कि मुझे नहीं आता या बताओ मेरे को समझाओ. एक बार बैठ के समझाओ मुझे ये चीज़. Then I'll understand it. I want this in life. This will be better for me. Can we make this happen? Like, you know, क्या होगा ज़्यादा मना करेंगे. लर्न फ्रॉम पीपल जितने ऑलरेडी 1-2 साल से काम कर रहे हैं, 10 साल से काम कर रहे हैं, यू कैन लर्न फ्रॉम देम, यू कैन अंडरस्टैंड दैट इंडस्ट्री इन इटसेल्फ. इट विल ओनली ऐड टू योर रेपर्टोयर, राइट? इट विल ओनली ऐड टू योर आर्मर कि अच्छा मुझे ये भी पता है. कल को तुम किसी कंपनी के CEO बनोगे, तुमको तो सब कुछ आना चाहिए, फिर ये भी पता होगा तुम्हें. You don't even know, like you went into fintech, right? Like it was so new for you, but you went into it. So yeah, I think people need to have that, क्या कहते हैं, that perspective कि अच्छा मेरे लिए भी important है ये चीज़. You are doing it for but balance, organization. पर मैं भी तो सीखूंगा इसमें से, मैं भी तो सीखूंगी इसमें से.
आप ही नहीं कर रहे हो. And the fact is, मैं सच बताता हूँ कि पहले 6 महीने 1 साल तो लोग ज़्यादा वैल्यू ऐड कर भी नहीं रहे होते हैं. ये रियलिटी होना बहुत ज़रूरी है, by the way. In fact, every organization pays you to learn. It's different. College के मुकाबले ये अलग है. College में you pay to learn. When you're out of a college, in the first few months, the company that has hired you is paying you to learn. It's very different. At the moment you see it like that, अच्छा है यार, सच में मेरे लिए ये काम किया यार, तो I should थोड़ा सा justice करना चाहिए.
तो लोग काफ़ी career change करते हैं, like constantly, right? For you yourself, I mean, you can speak from your perspective. You moved into a lot of different things and you're here today. Same for me, I moved and tried so many things when I was on my sabbatical and I'm here today. So there's no stopping to learning new things and it will always add.
Super. Yeah, Palnika, so we miss talking about it. लेकिन how do you see ये फर्स्ट ईयर सेकेंड ईयर बहुत सारा काम होता है, यू आर ट्राइंग टू फाइंड योर स्पेस, यू आर ट्राइंग टू फिगर आउट कि समथिंग इज वर्किंग फॉर मी और नॉट, शुड आई चेंज, शुड आई नॉट चेंज, यहीं पर रहूँ, एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. और उसमें कॉलेज से आए हो, कॉलेज में बॉयफ्रेंड था, गर्लफ्रेंड थी, एंड डिस्टेंस रिलेशनशिप हो गया है, नहीं हो गया है, यू आर हेल्थ इधर उधर जा रही है. हाउ डू यू मैनेज दिस ट्रायड ऑफ हेल्थ, लव, work?
I was very bad at it, I'll be very honest. I can see that from retrospective and I wish I managed it and handled it better than what I did at that time. I threw myself at work 100%. And it came at a cost. It came at a cost of losing friends, it came at a cost of losing my health a bit, and it took me a while to reach that point and I was like, acha nahi, this is not sustainable. You have to have that balance, right? You have to feel कि अच्छा तुम health पूरी ढंग से रखो अपनी, like you have to be able to manage your household, you have to, like, I don't know, cherish your soul and your mind in a different way also and not just your work. It's a very tricky balance, I think. How did you balance it? How has it been for you?
So Palnika, of course, I started my career with consulting. And then immediately moved to equity research. Equity research was extremely intense. And there used to be days, आज भी होते हैं, and as an analyst वो intense होता है because during the earnings days, जब earning companies अपनी earning release करते हैं, oh my god, it's bloody intense. And then intensity पूरे time से तो, but I was always, मेरी एक requirement थी बस एक, मैं क्या करता था, खाना पूरे time ऑफिस में खाता था, okay, but मेरे लिए बहुत crucial था that I be in the gym every day. So no matter where I was, equity research, banking, wherever, I used to be the most consistent gym goers all the time.
I've seen that.
Yeah, so all the time, every time, वो बहुत important था because I was always a sports person. और इस इंडस्ट्री में स्पोर्ट्स खेलना और बाकी बॉम्बे में रहते तो स्पोर्ट्स खेलना इतना आसान होता नहीं. बेस्ट रिप्लेसमेंट वाज गोइंग टू द जिम एंड आई यूज्ड टू गो टू द जिम एवरी डे. छोटा करूंगा, देर करूंगा. सो इस ट्राइड की बात कर रहे हैं ना कि वर्क, जिम, वर्क, हेल्थ एंड लव लाइफ, राइट? तो लव लाइफ तो नहीं थी, थोड़ी थी, फिर बीच में फिर खत्म हो जाती है, शुरू स्टार्ट स्टॉप होता रहता है. बट पॉइंट इज कि आई मेड श्योर दैट माई वर्क इज नॉट अफेक्टेड. वेल, in 2008, I let love life and all of that affect my work also very badly. That's a different case study. But उसके बाद learning हो गई. सो उसके बाद कभी नहीं हुआ. So I made sure my health and work were top notch. Good. I think we'll conclude with that. I think what stands out from this conversation for all the people, all our young friends who are going, and देखो ये इसीलिए बात हो रही है ताकि आपकी जर्नी स्मूथ हो, आपकी लैंडिंग स्मूथ हो इन द न्यू जॉब एंड राइट आफ्टर ग्रेजुएशन, और वहाँ से आपका ग्रोथ कर्व सॉलिड हो, स्टीप हो. कुछ चीज़ें स्टैंड आउट करती हैं कि कम्युनिकेशन बहुत की है. अपवर्ड मैनेजमेंट कर सकते हो. इट्स डोंट थिंक कि लोग आपको मैनेज कर रहे हैं, आप भी उनको मैनेज कर सकते हो विद योर राइट काइंड ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन. और उसके बारे में हमने बात की. एटीट्यूड बहुत इंपॉर्टेंट है. अगर आपके पास एटीट्यूड है सीखने का तो लोग आपको सिखाएंगे और आपको अपने क्लोज रखेंगे और बहुत क्लोज रखेंगे. फिर द कम्युनिकेशन इज ऑल्सो की. How to push back softly and manage certain tight situations, stress situations, etc., etc., and a few other things that you may have gathered. But thank you for your time. Thank you for your time, Palnika.
Thank you so much.
मजा आया बात करके.